online, and hope that you are enjoying your riding in what has been a rather, let's just say, crazy 2020. It's been nothing else, but we're really excited to have you all here. After last presentation, we just received so much positive feedback, and it was just so great for us to, I guess, see the impact that Deike had in terms of what she was able to communicate to everyone that was online that evening, and how it had assisted them in their training. So we just knew that we had to organise another one of these presentations as soon as we could. Tonight's presentation isn't going to be a carbon copy, though. It's not going to be a replica of what we covered off in the last presentation. Tonight's topic is Deike's going to discuss in a little bit more detail what we need to consider when we go to stronger bits, and the type of actions, for a better word, that and how these bits work. So mullen mouths, Weymouths, Pelhams, all these bits, how they operate, and what we need to consider when we are looking at moving our horse over or up to a stronger bit. So if you haven't already, I'd be recommending that you grab a pen and paper, as you may wish to make several notes from the night. And if you do have any questions, just hit us up on the chat box. We're going to do our best to sort of forward these questions on to Deike, and she'll be able to answer them hopefully tonight, time permitting. However, if she can't answer them right away, we will be having those questions answered in the coming days. If you have any questions about tonight, or if you wish to speak to me, just send me an email, Dale, that's DALE, at Chaballo, CHABALLO.com.au. Or if you wish to see some of the Sprenger range that we have here at Chaballo, obviously it's growing by the week, which is really, really exciting for us. Go to our website. And yeah, that's about it from me. So I'm now going to hand the reins over to Deike from her offices, or one of her offices in Germany. Deike, thank you so much again for taking the time to chat with us tonight. And yeah, we really look forward to what you've got to say. So yeah, that's about it from me, guys. So I will hand you over to Deike now.
Okay, hello everybody. I hope you can hear and see me. If not, please just use the chat box or refresh your browser, then it should work. And I am Deike Bräutigam. I'm working for Sprenger. And on behalf of Sprenger, I would like to welcome you, and of course to thank you for tuning in and for your interest in today's presentation. But before we start with the presentation, I would just say a few brief words about Sprenger. Sprenger was founded in 1872 and has started off as a factory for driving harnesses, and then introduced bits and spurs and stirrups to the product sortiment. Today, Sprenger is the leading manufacturer of metal bit spurs and stirrups. Many people don't know that we also have other departments and also produce, for example, products for dog equipment or boat fittings. Our unique selling point is that we focus on functional products, and we develop our products based on scientific research. We always want to add the products to the horse's anatomical needs, and whoever of you saw the first presentation, we have talked in detail about the anatomical background of the horse. We produce our products in Germany, and we have bits, or each bit requires a minimum of 25 working steps. That is mainly made by hand, as you can see on the images. and on average, we produce around 1,000 bits a week in our production site in Iserlohn in Germany. Bitting can be a difficult subject, but before we start to talk about bits in detail, I would like to state some very important suggestions first. The basic requirement for bitting a horse is a healthy horse and a suitable equipment. Also, a bit can neither replace good riding, nor solve rideability problems or health problems. Also, a bit is only as strong as the rider's hands. So stronger bits, what we will be talking today, always require fine aids and a skilled rider. Of course, the basic information for choosing a bit, for example, size, the style of the mouthpiece, and anatomical conditions, have been discussed in the first webinar we have made, and I will put you a link here. So if you have not seen it, you can watch it online. It is available on YouTube on the Sprenger channel. Today's webinar will focus on bits with a stronger effect that can be used either for correction purposes or for horses that are stronger or rather difficult. The choice of the right bit always depends on many different factors. But however, with the basic knowledge you will get today on how the different bit types work and how the effect is, and a healthy self-assessment of yourself and of your horse, it will be much easier for you to find the right bit for the problem you have. I would like to start with taking a look at this skull you see and just talk about the influence points we address by using bits. And first of all, with every bit that has a mouthpiece, we address the influence point of the tongue. The tongue is a muscle that covers the lower jaw bones and cushions the effect of the bit. As I said, every bit using a mouthpiece also puts pressure to the tongue and over the tongue to the lower bars. The second influence points we address by a bit is the poll and the nuchal ligament. And bits with leverage action, for example, address this point. That means we put pressure to this very sensitive part of the horse and transmit the pressure from the rein aid over 2 points, not only the tongue, but also the poll. Then there's other bit styles that also put pressure to the lower jaw and the curb groove. For example, if you use a Pelham with a curb chain or a Weymouth bit. And then there's another point of influence, which is the nose ridge. We address, for example, by using a Hackamore. Today we will mainly focus on different cheek pieces of the bits, but I would like to repeat the differences in the styles of the mouthpiece we use, because we always have two effects. We have the effect of the mouthpiece we use and the effect of the cheek pieces. We will talk into detail later. Here you can see a comparison between the single jointed, double jointed, or a mullen mouth bit. And you can see that the single jointed bits consist of two pieces and one joint in the middle. When you give a rein aid, the bit forms like a V shape and mainly transfers the pressure onto the tongue edges. For horses with a very flat or low palate or a very small oral cavity, or horses that are ridden with a very, very thick or too large bit, the V shape may cause problems called the nutcracker effect. When the eye of the joint gets in contact or presses into the sensitive palate, it will cause bruises or injuries, what we never want to cause. And the pressure from the rein aid is mainly distributed on the edges of the tongue. So the rein aid pressure will be mostly addressed to these points, the tongue edges. Double jointed mouthpieces have 3 parts and 2 joints. The middle part, which is also called the lozenge, lies completely on the tongue, and the pressure from the rein aid is distributed over these 3 parts. That means you will have a pressure point here, here, and there. So you have the same pressure compared to the single jointed one, but distributed over a larger area on the tongue. If you give single-sided rein aid, the pressure will be distributed over the tongue half, whereas on a single jointed bit, you will exert more pressure on one side. So this is the most or the highest difference between these two kinds of bits. Then we also have the mullen mouth bits that have no joint and can be of different shapes, styles, and materials. And the most common mullen mouth bits are rigid bars and transmit the pressure evenly over the whole tongue, as you can see here. It is important to choose the correct size for all these bits, especially for the mullen mouth bits, because you don't want them to slide inside the mouth, or of course you don't want them to tilt. So we will now start talking about more specific bits that can be used for correction purposes or for jumping, for example, and we will start with special mullen mouth bits. Starting with the max control bit, which is it is a double jointed bit that becomes a straight bar at a certain angle. That means you have a normal contact and a soft horse, and the effect is the same as if you use a normal double jointed bit. But as soon as the horse gets stronger and you need more rein pressure or rein aids or a stronger contact, the bit turns into a straight bar and gives you more control and a higher impact then. As soon as the horse gets lighter in the contact again, you will have a lighter impact because it will react like a normal double jointed bit. This bit is very suitable for horses that have a normal contact, normal to strong contact, and sometimes tend to get strong, for example, when galloping to a fence or so. The flex control bit is a flexible straight bar, which is made of metal and rubber, and the rubber part in the middle is flexible. So you will have an even pressure transmission over the whole tongue. But if you have a rigid straight bar or rigid mullen mouth bits, you will always have the problem that you have to have contact or the same contact on both reins, because otherwise it will tilt. On a flexible mullen mouth bit, like the flex control or plastic bits, for example, you have the possibility to give single-sided rein aids. The hard carbon bit is a plastic bit that is a bit softer than the metal surface, but still rigid. And these kinds of bits are very good for strong horses that have, for example, strong necks and get very strong in the contact and push against the hand. And these bits are also suitable for horses that pull down and lean on the hand, because it gives you, if you give a strong rein aid, it helps you to lift the horse and the head up. The multi-joint bit is a bit that has many different middle pieces. And that is very flexible. So it's kind of a waterford bit, but we have no sharp edges anywhere. It's all smooth and rounded. And due to the flexibility of the bit, you can see here, it is perfect for horses that like to grab the bit and really lean on the hand and grab the bit, and it is hard for the rider to get control. And due to the flexibility, the horse cannot bite on the bit. So if you have a horse that is normal in the contact, but sometimes really gets strong because it bites on the bit and gets pulls on your hand, the multi-joint is a very effective bit. Then we also have a rigid mullen mouth bit with the port, which is called the comfort mouth. And the advantage of this bit is that it leaves a lot more space for the tongue. So it relieves the tongue from pressure until the rider really needs to give a strong rein aid. This bit is perfect for horses that have a very sensitive tongue or don't like too much pressure on the tongue. Then we also have flexible mullen mouth bits. For example, the duo bits. They have the same advantage as the flex control bit, for example, but also have a softer surface because it is made of soft and flexible plastic, and it is very gentle to the horse's mouth. If I have a horse that doesn't like the hard metal bit or is very sensitive on the metal bits, you could try the flexible plastic bits. They can be used in two ways, either as a straight bar, or if you turn them around, you have a bit more space for the tongue because one of the sides has a little port that leaves more space for the tongue. The mouthpiece, of course, is reinforced with a steel cable for security reasons. Everybody who uses plastic bits should be sure that there is a steel core inside, because the plastic bits, rubber bits, soft plastic, hard plastic are not as strong as metal. And if the horse starts chewing on these bits, it can happen that the material will break or will be damaged. So always ensure there's a steel cable and the bit cannot break apart. Of course, you should always use materials that are solvent-free, food-safe, and don't contain any plasticizers, because you put the material inside your horse's mouth, which is very sensitive, and you want high-quality materials in there. So depending on the model you use, mullen mouth bits can be suitable for very strong horses, but also, as we have said, for very sensitive horses. The choice is huge, and depending on the style and the material you choose for, the action and the effect can vary enormously. So please always inform yourself about the properties of the bit and the material before you use it for your horse. You never want a rigid straight bar for a very sensitive horse, and a soft and flexible bar might not always be a good option for a very strong horse. If we talk about different bit types and their effect, we have the most common bit types with the normal loose ring snaffles, the bits with fixed cheeks, for example, Eggbutts, D-ring or full cheek bits, and bits with leverage effect. And we will go through all these types of bits now, and of course focus on the bits with leverage effect, as these are the stronger ones. If you use a loose ring snaffle, you address only the influence point of the tongue. You have no leverage effect, and the mouthpiece can move up and down the ring. These kind of bits are suitable for all disciplines and education levels. And so as you can see, the ring can run free, or the mouthpiece can run free in the bit ring. That means if the horse tangents the tongue, the bit can lift up a little, for example. The size you choose on the loose ring bits is always between 3 to 5 millimeters between the corner of the mouth and the bit ring. You don't want it too small, because you don't want the bit ring to pinch the corner of the mouth of your horse, and you don't want it too large, because you will pull the bit or the flesh of your horse's corner of the mouth in direction to the teeth, and that can cause damages. If you compare that to a bit with a fixed cheek, like Eggbutts bits, D-ring bits, full cheek bits, for example, the difference is that the mouthpiece is fixed to the ring. Therefore, if the horse tenses the tongue and you have a normal contact, you will immediately have pressure on the tongue. So you need a soft hand to use these bits, but the advantage is that the bit is more quiet in the horse's mouth. The size should be chosen one size smaller compared to a loose ring bit, because you want it to fit closely to your horse's lips in order to prevent them sliding, and in order to use the lateral effect you have by using these bits. So these bits are compared to loose ring snaffles, are more quiet in the mouth, and they act more immediately on the tongue. We also have no leverage action, address only the tongue. And we have, as I said, a more direct influence due to the fixed mouthpiece to the cheeks. It is quiet in the horse's mouth and offers additional lateral support. That means if you have a horse that falls out, for example, while you ride turns, you could use a bit with Eggbutts, D-ring, or full cheek to support your horse with the lateral effect while riding the turns. And the larger or the higher the lateral influence, the easier it is for the horse. That means a full cheek bit gives you more lateral influence than an Eggbutts bit, for example. We will now start to talk about the bits with leverage effect, which is gives us more control over the horse because we use additional influence points. These bits, or the most common bits, are 3-ring bits, gag bits, Pelhams, and Weymouth bits, for example. And the reason why it makes sense to use these bits is, as you see on the image, that if it happens that your horse evades the rein aids, for example, by raising the head, like on the right picture, the rider will no longer address the tongue. But what will happen when you pull the rein, as you can see here, you will pull the bit into the hollow part of the mouth or even on the teeth, which gives you no control. We always want to address the tongue, like on this image. And there the bit will affect the tongue and give the rider more influence and control. So what we can do if a horse evades upwards, we can use a bit with leverage action that puts pressure on the paw. Because if you put pressure on the paw, which is a very sensitive part of your horse, the horse will react in lowering the head. And as soon as the horse lowers the head, you can start addressing the tongue again and you have more control over the horse. This is the reason for using bits with leverage effect. And as you can imagine, these kinds of bits are not suitable for every problem we have. If we have, for example, a very strong horse that does not evade upwards but pulls downwards, it will not help us because it will worsen the problem. Or, for example, if we have a horse that rolls in very much and always goes behind the vertical, bits with leverage effect may not be your first option. So we will start with the action of different 3-ring bits, and we have various options to choose for. For example, multi-ring bits, where the smaller rings are integrated in the normal bit ring. Then there are so-called universal bits, where we have the lower ring integrated in the upper ring. And then we have the normal 3-ring bit, or there are even 4-ring bits where the leverage action is even higher. All these bits offer various rein options and are very versatile to use. The difference is that the leverage action is smaller from here over here to there. The higher the distance of the bit rings, the higher the lateral effect, the leverage effect is, and the higher the pressure on the paw. In this image, you can see a multi-ring bit, and you also see the different option we have to attach the reins. I really like the 3-ring bits because they are very versatile to use, and they are very flexible also, because if you attach the normal rein to the normal bit ring, you will have the same action as the loose ring snaffle. You will address the tongue and not the paw. But as soon as you want more control, you can switch the rein to the lower ring, and then you will address the paw, and you will have on these bits, the multi-ring bits, you will have fairly low paw pressure, but still the horse will react and lower the head a little. You will have less paw pressure than on a normal 3-ring bit because of the distance of the 2 rings. And these kinds of bits, because the paw pressure is quite low, are perfect for sensitive horses that tend to get strong sometimes, but are really, really sensitive and just need a little bit more than a normal loose ring snaffle. So there is the same kind of bit, 3-ring bit, with a higher effect on the paw, a higher leverage action because of the distance of the bit rings. For example, the universal or 3-ring bits. Here we also have different rein options, and I have one here to show you. So the smaller upper ring is for the cheek piece. Then this is just the normal ring, and then we have the lower ring for the rein. You can use it either with a bit converter with one rein or with two reins. But what happens if you put one rein here? You will only address the tongue. If you put a rein in the lower ring, you will address the paw because you have the cheek piece up here and that will be tightened. The more you pull the rein, the more pressure you will have on the poll of your horse. So this bit gives you variable rein options. You can use it as a normal snaffle, for example, for flat work, but when you want to go to do a little bit of jumping exercises, for example, you can use either a bit converter to get a slightly higher effect on the pole, or you can attach the rein or one rein to the lower ring. You will have the highest pole pressure you can achieve with this bit, or you can also use it with two reins. That means you can just use the normal rein and the second lower rein only in case you need it. What you can also do, because you don't want the horse to lower the head too much, because you always want control and you want the horse to be able to see the fence, for example. You can limit the paw pressure by using a chin strap. And by using the chin strap, you put additional pressure to the lower jaw, which stops the horse from going too deep and too round. Another bit type with leverage effect is the Pelham. Other than the 3-ring bits, on a Pelham we have the mouthpiece fixed to the cheeks. That means we have, if we use the leverage effect of the bit, we also at the same time put more pressure on the tongue of your horse. On the 3-ring bit, we can adjust the pole pressure without putting too much pressure on the tongue of your horse at the same time. So if you have a horse that is too strong, for example, with a 3-ring bit, and you feel that you need a little bit more control over the tongue also, a Pelham would be a very nice option because you have both effects. The Pelham also gives you different rein options. You can use bit converter, you can use 2 reins or also just 1 rein in the lower ring. And on these images, you see a Pelham with short shanks. The difference between short and long shanks is that the pole pressure with the short shanks is not as high as with long shanks. The longer the leverage or the lever arm, the higher the pole pressure. But also, the longer the lever arm, the longer it takes for you to give or to take the rein and to give the rein. So what we want in jumping is, for example, that we want control directly before we jump. But of course, during the jump, we want no pressure anywhere because we want the horse to be free and to do a jump with good scope. And this is why we prefer to use short shank Pelhams for jumping, because the rider can react much quicker and the reaction of the bit is much quicker. So you can lower the pole pressure quicker than if you use a bit with a longer shank. The Pelham is always used with a curb chain. And it is important that if you attach the Pelham and the curb chain, that you have an angle between 30 to 45 degrees. Because the curb chain is there to limit the pressure on the pole. So if you have a curb chain that is too loose, you will have too much pressure on the sensitive pole of your horse. And the curb chain also helps you that the horse will not go too deep or roll in too much. And there's another kind of bits that put pressure to the pole, but that also address the corner of your mouth, the gag bits. The gag bits act on the pole, the tongue, and the corners of your mouth. And unlike 3-ring bits and Pelhams, these type of bits are very well suited for horses that lean on the bit or pull downwards significantly. The gag cheek piece is guided through the bit ring and is attached directly to the reins. So you have the cheek piece going through the bit ring that is attached to the bridle, and then you have the ring here that is attached to the rein. So what happens if you pull the rein is that the bit will be lifted upwards. As you can see, if you pull the rein, the bit will be lifted, and that puts additional pressure on the corner of the mouth, which helps you, especially on horses that lean on the hand or pull downwards. It has kind of an elevating effect, but also puts pressure on the paw and on the mouth. It helps you to elevate the horse, and it can also be used by attaching 1 or 2 reins. So it's various rein options, and yeah, you can just address the influence points by using different rein combinations better. Then we have bits that also address the nose of the horse. For example, hackamores. And there's different kinds of hackamores. And a hackamore is a bitless bridle that affects the poll, the nose ridge, and the lower jaw. Special versions and styles of hackamores act with no paw pressure, for example, or can be combined with a bit. In general, it is to say, same as on normal bits, the longer the shank, the more pressure can be exerted to the poll and, of course, to the other addressed influence points. In general, these are, as I said, the poll, the nose, and the lower jaw. And if you use it in combination with the bit, also the tongue. The hackamore on the left side is a rather soft and standard one because the shanks are comparably short and the nose band is made of a wide and rather soft and cushioned leather. The curb strap is also made of leather and has a softer impact than, for example, a curb chain. And the hackamore on the right side has a noseband of a rounded noseband of braided leather and is therefore stronger for the horse because it is not as soft as the leather cushioned one. It is more punctual, and on this specific model we have no pressure on the poll because the upper cheek is well, there is no upper cheek. So you have only pressure on the nose and on the lower jaw. Some hackamores can also be combined with a bit, the so-called combination hackamores. And this would help you to deliver your rein aid at the most possible points of your horse's head. And delivering the rein aid pressure to more points is not always bad, because of course the bit has a stronger effect and you have more influence on your horse. But imagine if you ride a horse with just a normal loose ring snaffle and you have maybe, I don't know, let's talk about 10 kilos on 2 hands. That means 10 kilos are only on the tongue. So if you now use a bit that transmits the pressure on more influence points of your horse, that means that you have less pressure on the tongue. And also you have pressure on the other influence points of your horse, but not as much as if you just put all the power on one part of your horse's head. So using a stronger bit sometimes helps you to get more control over your horse and to use less power, and of course to put less pressure to specific points on your horse, which is a good thing in many cases. If we now go back to the hackamores we see, the model on the left side affects the paw, the nose, and the lower jaw. And of course, if you use it in combination with a bit, also the tongue. And on the right side, we have an example where we have pressure on the nose, but not on the paw. So there's a lot of different options you can choose from. And it is always important to know a lot about your horse, about where your horse is very sensitive, for example, or where you can address the horse better for a better reaction. Of course, there's also stronger bits for the dressage riders. As for example, the Weymouth bit, which is similar to a Pelham, but with a rigid mouthpiece. And there's another difference because a Weymouth bit is always used together with a bradoon. We have 3 images of a correctly fitted Weymouth bit, and we can see on the left side that the Weymouth, or the shank of the Weymouth, is lying very close to the horse's lips. And this is how it should look like also for a Pelham, for example, or for an Eggbutts bit, for a D-ring bit, or a full cheek bit. All bits that have fixed cheeks should lie very close to the lip of your horse. Of course, we never want them to be too small because they would pinch the lip of your horse. But we also want a close fit to have a quiet and a secure position of these bits. When choosing the size for the bradoon and the Weymouth, it is always important to remember that the bradoon is positioned at the same position the standard snaffle lies. That means if you use a standard snaffle in a size of maybe 13.5, you would stick on that for the bradoon. You would choose the bradoon in size 13.5 and maybe a little bit thinner because you have to fit 2 bits in the small mouth. The Weymouth is positioned below the bradoon and has fixed cheeks. And therefore you should choose a Weymouth 1 size smaller, for example, in this case, 12.5. And that would be the correct fitting of the bradoon and the Weymouth. We will now go through different mouthpieces, and this will not only be interesting for the dressage riders because it is also applicable to the mullen mouth bits, the shape of the mouthpiece. If we have, like we can see here, a very straight bar with only low or even no port, this is perfectly suitable for horses with very, very limited space with a very low palate, or for horses that are fairly strong. Because due to the shape of the mouthpiece, the straight bar, you will have pressure on the tongue even if you don't pull the rein. It is even pressure distributed over the whole tongue, but still it is always pressure, and the more contact you have, the stronger your rein aid is, the stronger the bit acts, and the higher the impact is. If we have a bar that is slightly curved, as we can see here, we offer more space for the horse's tongue, which is good, for example, for sensitive horses that don't like too much pressure on the tongue, for horses that have thick tongues, and also for stronger horses, because you still have enough impact for these kind of horses. We have one fairly new model, which is called the Novo Contact Weymouth, where the mouthpiece in the middle is wider than compared to a normal Weymouth. And due to the wider contact surface in the middle, it has a softer impact onto the tongue, because the pressure that is transmitted onto the tongue is covers a larger area. So it is not as punctual as on a normal bit, which makes it softer and especially recommendable for horses with a sensitive tongue, or horses that sometimes tend to pull the tongue up and evade the pressure from the bar. Then there's bits with more or a higher port that are perfect for also tongue sensitive horses, and this also applies for jumping horses, because we have these styles also available as Pelham or just normal loose ring mullen mouth bits, and we have a port on both bits that is angled forwards, and this is important because we never want any part of the mouthpiece pressing into the sensitive palate of our horse. And because of the wide port, we have a lot more space for the tongue, and these bit types are perfect for horses that have a very, very thick tongue and limited space in the mouth, and also for horses that tend to pull the tongue over the bit. Because we relieve the tongue from pressure, and due to the bow we have, to the slight curve that lies directly below the palate, the horse is not able to put the tongue over it. For the Weymouth bits, we have also a style that has movable cheeks. That means that the mouthpiece is not fixed to the cheeks and can react independently from the cheeks. It will put less pressure on the tongue when you take the rein, and it is impossible to have a tilting when you pull the rein single-sided, because the cheek will turn. It is available in two styles, in the slightly curved HO style or the higher curved Bimmelmann's mouthpiece style for thick tongues. and the curb chain on these kind of bits should be tighter than on the bits with fixed cheeks. As we have said when we were talking about Pelhams, we also on the Weymouth bit want an angle that is between 30 and 45 degrees in order to limit the pole pressure for your horse. So please, whatever bit you use, don't do it upside down. This is an image we have been sent by a customer not too long ago. So it still happens that people use bits they don't even know how to attach. Please always be aware that the mouth of your horse is a very, very sensitive part, and you always want to treat it carefully, and you always want to choose a bit that is suitable for your character of the horse, for the anatomics of your horse, and of course for the educational level of you and your horse. So I hope that going through the most common leverage bits, you have an idea of how the bits work and what bits are maybe suitable or not suitable for the problem your horses have, and that it's easier for you now to choose a stronger bit or a correction bit for your horse in case you need it. So thank you very much for tuning in today. If you have any questions, please email Dale and he will forward them to me and I will be happy to answer them in the next few days. So thank you everybody and enjoy your evening.
That concludes tonight's presentation, guys. So thank you all for tuning in tonight. I hope you found the presentation and the content that Deike provided to be, for me, it was very, very insightful. And I always take a great deal of thought after speaking to Deike, particularly when it comes to my training. One of the great things that we do have that we work with Sprenger is that we do have the test center. So we do have a number of bits that we do have available for customers to try, because obviously having all this in theory can be quite challenging, because you in theory a particular bit may be suited to your horse. However, what you find is that after you get the bit and you do try it, you in fact find out that the horse doesn't perform as we were hoping they would, even though in theory it does line up. So that's one of the great features that Sprenger do offer is their test center. So we have a number of those bits available. So if you just send me an email or give us a call at the store, we can definitely go or have a little bit more of a discussion about some of the bits that we have and the bits that are going to be best suited for you and your horse. Thank you so much again. If you've got any questions, please send me an email and I'll do my best to answer them. And obviously, if you've got any further questions that you would like Deike to address, send them on to me, to my email. Again, that's Dale, DALE, @Chaballo, CHABALLO.com.au. I'll forward those on and we'll look to answer those in the coming days. And yeah, we will keep you all posted on when we plan for doing another one of these presentations. So have a wonderful evening, stay safe and happy riding. Cheers.